So, with Batman the Caped Crusader coming out and them really showcasing their villains, especially really hyping up Harley Quinn in this new dangerous new form, as well as we got to see other villains, which one I mistakenly said Scarecrow, but someone said no, that's Clayface, and I was like, oh, we're going back to like Clayface being like like Basil Car, because remember, Clayface didn't start out as a shape-shifting clay monster. He actually started out as like a serial killer who would use clay to like change his face, and he was an actor. So it's cool that we're using that version of how Basil Carlo was at the beginning. So the other villain I didn't talk about, also I completely forgot about, was that Onomatopoeia is going to be in this Rogues Gallery for Caped Crusader. For those who don't know, Onomatopoeia isn't really a Batman villain. He's a Green Arrow villain who Kevin Smith made in his Green Arrow run, and then had him battle Batman a few times. Onomatopoeia is one of those villains I've wanted to see in comics in animation for a while. So it's cool to see him here. Like, it is cool to see Onomatopoeia here, but I wish Batman would stop taking other people's rogues. Damn it, stop! You already you took Deathstroke away from Nightwing. Yeah, Slade is Dick's villain. That was a sentence I just said. Yeah, Slade is Nightwing's villain. Let him keep, and thank God, like Joshua Williamson. I'm going on a side tangent, but thank God Joshua Williamson remembered that Deathstroke and Nightwing were arch enemies. Thank you for that in Dark Crisis, at the bare minimum. Even though I haven't read Dark Crisis, I know that was kind of the crux of Dark Crisis, was that Nightwing, like, Joshua Williamson seemed to be the only person who remembered, oh yeah, he's not Batman's villain, Deathstroke is Dick's villain. You know, his arch nemesis. Anyway. So yeah, Bruce, stop taking everyone's villains. And Oliver only has a few. He only has so many. He only has really like Merlin and Count Vertigo, and maybe two more. That's it. Let him keep Onomatopoeia. Anyway, but I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. So this video is just basically talking about some villains I would like to see in this cartoon in future seasons. Now, just because they weren't in the trailer doesn't mean those villains may show up in like cameos or get full episodes themselves. So I fully acknowledge that, like, come August and we see Batman the Caped Crusader, we're basically going to see some of these villains. There's a chance we may not, and there's a chance we may see these villains. The point being is that these are just some villains I would like to see in either Season 1 or in future seasons. It is also interesting to note that, like, we don't have Joker. Like, we don't have... It looks like we're not going to get Joker for at least the first season, which is cool. I'm actually kind of okay with that. Give love to the other villains. So I'm going to talk about villains so let's get into it. I've already said that like twice, so... Anyway, so the first villain I would love to see in Caped Crusader is Mr. Zsasz. Mr. Zsasz really represents what this show is all about. This level of just evil and brutality, and just kind of like just a total sycophant. Now, again, I do imagine he'll get like a fucking Easter egg maybe, but like if we don't get him, that'd be like, maybe save him for a later season. But Mr. Zsasz would be such a and again, he's always been a creepy character to see, just a guy who kills people then leaves a tally mark on himself, just to feel something. So I would really love to see Mr. Zsasz here and be like a cool, like almost like Silence of the Lambs kind of story where it's almost like Zsasz is almost like Buffalo Bill, and Batman really has to like put all the pieces together to figure out like how Zsasz picks his victims. That'd be kind of cool. Next up, the ventriloquist. I imagine the ventriloquist is going to show up in this cartoon. I have a feeling, because Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and I know Paul Dini's not really involved in Caped Crusader, but like Bruce Timm really loved to use ventriloquists when he could. So the ventriloquist would be, and again, we're in that kind of 1930s feel for the show, so I would really love to see I think he fits it. Again, it's a 1930s era kind of style, so the whole point is that he's meant to be like a 1930s and Mr. Scarface is a 1930s gangster, so of course you would have to use him in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, you just have to use him in that way. Anyway. So, the ventriloquist would be great. I would also love to... Now, it would be fascinating if they didn't use Arnold Wesker, the original ventriloquist, and use Gail Simone's creation, which was... I can't remember her name, but she basically... After Wesker had died in the comics... There was a second ventriloquist, and it was a woman who took Mr. Scarface and gave him new life. So it could be that we could see the second ventriloquist and not see Wesker. I keep saying Wesker, but I'm not referring to Wesker from Resident Evil. Even my brain's telling me that. But that's not the case. Anyway, so the ventriloquist, either one or two, would be really cool. Next up is a deep cut of a villain. And that is Amygdala. Amygdala, for those who don't know, Amygdala came out in the 80s and 90s era of Batman, where they're like trying to bring in new villains. That a lot of them didn't stick, but they were like, oh well, they're always in the background. Amygdala was basically he also showed up in the same story arc that Zaz did. But Amygdala was a Arkham patient who was experimented on with various drugs, and it made him super smart, but he's also really dumb. So it would be a neat episode to for Batman to go to Arkham Asylum and encounter all these experiments being done by whether it be Hugo Strange is another villain I think would be perfect for this show. And I do imagine we will get Hugo Strange in here. So maybe have it that Batman, you have a 2-in-1 where you have Hugo Strange, and then you have Amygdala as well. So Batman discovers what Strange has done to him and has to fight him. So yeah, that would be a cool introduction to what the horrors are going on in Arkham. I think that would be a cool idea. Next up for another villain I think would be a lot of fun. And this is kind of a another deep cut villain, but it'd be I just kind of want to see other Batman villains get some light, and that is Cornelius Stirk, who was basically a cannibal who believed he had to keep his he was immortal and had to keep his immortality by eating members of his family. I don't think he'd be a recurring villain, but he would definitely be one of those cool one and done villains that we'd have sometimes in Batman the Animated Series. So have it as a cool dark family detective story to use Cornelius Stirk. Stirk, for those who probably know him best, he was the villain that fucking Jean-Paul Valley fucking chucked into I think a vat of chemicals or some shit and killed him. But yeah, I don't Cornelius Stirk does not scream major villain, but he would make for a fun one and done villain, and then we move on. Next up, I would probably say for another villain I think would be a lot of fun, Black Mask. Again, he represents the kind of 30s style we're going for, so Black Mask would be fun. I would love to see also Great White Shark. That would be another great, if you don't want to use I know Penguin is going to be here, but I think it would be cool to have either Black Mask or Great White Shark in here. Have you could even do Great White Shark was a corporate businessman who screwed over his millions of his own employees and then claimed insanity to get into Arkham, and then he fell down this rabbit hole and became looking like a humanoid shark guy and became a gangster afterwards. So you could probably drop the business angle and just have him be a gangster with a skin condition if you're not going to use Croc, at least in this season. So Great White Shark would be fun. I would really love to see another villain I would love to see in here is Magpie. Magpie would be a great, like, you could have, like, a cool episode where it's Magpie and Catwoman going after several things, and it's almost like they're trying to outsteal one another, and Batman's caught in the crossfire. That would be cool. Grundy would be another fun one. Maybe have like here's how you could do it: is have you could have Cyrus Gold in a gang, and then he tried to like sell them out to another gang or the cops for immunity, and either like Two-Face or Penguin were like, yeah, we're gonna kill you now, and then he comes back in a later episode as Solomon Grundy. Just a thought. I know I'm listing off a lot of like villains that are like lower tier, but that's kind of the fun thing about this, is that like, yes, we are having like the major Batman villains, but we're also like showing some light to some lesser known, and that's why I'm kind of listing out some lesser known villains. Do I want to see Joker? Yes. Do I want to see Killer Croc? Absolutely. But it never hurts to like change. Like, the thing about Batman's Rogues Gallery is that just like Spider-Man's, it's vast and fascinating. Even though not every villain is going to be a woohoo. There are some that you could at least do at the bare minimum. You could look at one and go, yeah, you could be good for a one-shot episode. There you go. That's just kind of what I'm saying, is that a lot of these villains would be like cool for some, like Ventriloquist would be cool for several episodes. But there are others, like I said, with like Cornelius Stirk, where it's like, just use him for one fucking episode. You don't need to bring him back. Just one episode. Like, he's hunting, like, the last member of his family so he can eat him and, like, become immortal and some shit. Zaz, you could use him for multiple episodes. Yeah. But you guys tell me in the comments below, what Batman villains, whether be popular or not, would you like to see? There are others, of course, like Ra's al Ghul and, like I said, Hugo Strange. A lot of villains that I'd love to see. It doesn't have to be just minor villains. Just any villains you would like to see show up in Batman the Caped Crusader. Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.